Back here with the G10 playlist. I think this is number 7. We got the intake manifold on, the single barrel throttle body installed. We got the exhaust manifold, motor mounts on, the bracket for the air conditioner, the bracket for the alternator is there. And while I've been working on this engine, I've done a couple upgrades after the fact on a couple other things, but the one thing in particular I'll show you a close-up in a minute. And it's this timing gear down here at the crankshaft. If you look at that gear, those teeth are supposed to be cut kind of flat, and you can see several of them are a little rounded and appear to have some kind of damage. I can't imagine what from, because only a rubber belt rides on it. Maybe they were using it to turn the engine over during a replacement of a belt at one time or something, or maybe it's just damage from, you know, sand that got back behind the cover. This car came from Florida originally. I don't know what would cause that kind of damage, but the more I turned this engine and saw different parts of it, the more I look at things like this, and I'm just going to replace them, because the timing belt on this one, if it snaps, the pistons will come up and hit the valves if they were open at the time. So it's called the interference engine, and it'll ruin your engine. So, or at the very least, bend the valves. So I'm just going to replace the gear. It's real easy to get at right now, and if in the car it wore more, it would be very difficult to get off. So I bought a replacement. Good, the key stayed right where it was supposed to be. Yeah, there's just some weird, there's a couple of wrench marks there. I think somebody was using this to hold it while they were trying to zip that bolt out previously, and there's a couple rounded corners and stuff, so I just don't feel okay with reusing that. The more I saw it from different angles, it seemed like the day I put it on, it might have been turned in a different position or so. I don't know, I just didn't notice it. But what I got, made in USA, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable. Let's just double check her to make sure she's the right bird. Yeah, see, these are just so flat and nice. That belt's going to be very happy on there. Looks good. It's got the threaded holes. Alright. Alright, back to what's the front of the engine, and I got a new oxygen sensor, as promised. These ones come real cheap, these single wire ones, so just put it on when you got it off. And I like this brand because they actually come with a little bit of anti-seize, which is always helpful if you're going to have the vehicle for any length of time. You probably will change it at some point. And then we'll go for the cap and rotor. And I don't have the new rotor yet, but I do have the cap. And it came with new bolts to put it on with. Did they wear out? I didn't know that. Okay, for now, I'm just going to leave the old rotor on until the other one comes in. Just get this one lined up how the other one was. That way. Actually, that one's supposed to be the one with the ground wire. I'm just going to snug those up. And that's still loose because I haven't done any of the... I might have to take that back off to reverse the... if that can be backwards. It might be. Alright. Then I'll switch over the wires. Got a new set of wires too. Oh, it's even got some dielectric grease in there, which is good because these last ones, they didn't fit worth a dang as far as how they click in. Maybe that's not far enough protruding, but those could fall off at any minute the way that looks. I like to put a little bit on the plastic part too. Kind of creates a seal and helps these things stay watertight. You can use this on the spark plug side too, but my guess is it just turns into water the second you start it up in that high heat. Alright, that should help keep us reliable. And then this one, I guess both ends are the same for the main from the main spark coil. All right, getting closer. All right, back here with the Geo Metro 1-liter G10 engine playlist. This is video number 8, I believe, and I got some new parts in today, so we can finally continue. Finally continue, does that make sense? We can continue. Made in USA, ladies and gentlemen. Made in USA. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Alright. Let's get our timing marks lined up. The white one has to go to the notch. The notch there, but it's got white paint on it. This one, this notch has to go towards the bolt that's there, or straight up. And then I got to loosen this tensioner. Even though the adjuster is loose here, it won't slide. This locks it too. That's not the only lock. Apparently, I don't know how that would be, but for some reason it's stuck. Weird. Really gets locked down when it locks down. So the main thing you want to do is make sure your belt fits. There's, you know, in case they gave you the wrong belt or something, I'll get a close-up on that. So what I want to show you is just how precise these belts are made. That thing fits, and there isn't a bit of slack on that pulley when I'm trying to turn it. You know, I'm trying to make it go right now. It fits exactly in there. And then being that I put a new pulley on the bottom, we'll just take a quick look at that too. And again, 100% fit. So you're sure you got the right belt. Because I believe on certain other models, I was watching another guy's video, and he was mentioning that, well, he does a lot of motor swapping just out of whatever car he can find. He doesn't even make sure it's the same. You might know the guy. And he had one with the pulley that didn't fit the belt one single bit. So be careful what you're swapping if you're swapping. I'm going to try to make this plane straight, and then I'll go around that one if that'll work. The spring is fighting me, for one thing. Take that spring off for a minute. Try to get this side lined up, and then I can make it go past the tensioner there. Alright, got that on there. Then I'm just trying to look for a mark where that was stuck before. Seems to be quite tight if I was to put it back where the mark from the old days was. I want to put this spring back on before I forget that one. Alright, and I did just get my rotor finally came in. Anytime you're doing a rebuild like this, you're not probably going to get it done in a day. You're going to have to order parts and then remember what other parts you need, and nothing. You can get a pretty good idea, but you'll probably forget something. All right. Now what I have to check is the rest of the timing. So we know that's top dead center, crank's top dead center. This can be in two positions. because of the way when I mounted that, it could be this way or this way, and you need to make it top dead center on the compression stroke, which means it should be facing the #1 cylinder right now. So let's see if we have to, if I got lucky, or if we have to flip that. Let's see which way this was. Right. And the top post, yeah, we got it. The top post is facing the #1 cylinder. You'd have two options. You could either take this thing out and reclock it, or you could turn the you could take the belt back off, turn that till you had it facing the right way. Either way is correct. One revolution 180 degrees out would be the compression stroke. Already forgetting wires and stuff. How did that come out of there? Thought those clipped in pretty good. Guess I got rough with it. No, this one's like the other one. These must be just cruddy. All better. Alright, timing is set. This, I'm just going to put it about in the middle to give us a basic amount of timing there. Probably be good enough to get it to fire over, and then we'll have to adjust it. Alright, got the engine flipped upside down here. Oil pan facing sideways. And the next thing we're going to do is put on the oil pickup screen tube assembly. And I will have to find an O-ring that fits this, because for whatever reason my kit did not come with said proper O-ring. And it'll bolt there for a support, but there's supposed to be an O-ring that goes into here, and I don't have one, so I gotta get one. All those things you find only when you're putting it back together, and you can't believe they didn't give you the little O-ring. So for this particular engine, I went with my little O-ring kit here. These things will save the day if you're sick of running back and forth to the store all the time. You can get them pretty cheap online. R09 was the size that fits mine. I'm actually going to put two, one low and one high. I could see the line where the old one was riding, and it was just kind of hovering up there a little bit, and probably wasn't doing a very good job sealing. If that doesn't seal, you will have difficult time getting oil without air in it. So I'm putting too deep, and the reason is that way it bottoms out in this hole. This hole has a chamfer, or I don't know what you call it, a cut in it about 1/8 of an inch in, and this, when it goes in, will actually squish down a little. It'll actually compress that just a hair with 2 and give it some squish this way, and you know, also out, which will just come naturally. Okay, now oil pan gasket. Another thing that hadn't come in my kit with the engine for whatever reason. Just a cork one. Cork is not my favorite material, but it does work, I guess, so I shouldn't complain. I'm going to put some stuff called high tack on here. It's basically just glue, holds it in place until you can get your pan put on good, and it also prevents, like this one wants to push back a little bit, keeps it right where it needs to be so you can get the proper clamping on it. There's absolutely no reason to put gasket sealer on this part. And the other thing I got to do is here, there's gaskets sticking out from this. When I clamp this cover down, this gasket is sticking out proud here, and these gaskets are sticking out proud from the oil pump on that side, oil pump housing, and I need to just cut those flush with a razor knife first. Okay, so I got all of the 4 gasket remnants. This is 100% clean all the way around. Put some of this. This is real tacky. It tacks up real quick, so you can stick that gasket real easy. I'm just going to put some random stuff in here. This is not necessary for sealing that gasket. It's just for holding the gasket while I can get all the bolts put on there. Let's see if that's enough. And this is directional, I just found out. These bolts are spaced differently than those bolts. I think that'll hold it. See, now that's like an extra pair of hands for you. Keeps everything right where you want it. Now I got my oil pan. I cleaned it all up. I wire wheeled all this. I put a light coat of paint on that, and then I painted the bottom side just to make it look decent. Keep the corrosion away from where it was scraped from rock chips from being so low under that car and everything. And let's see how this fits. It does fit. Another reason you might not want to use gasket sealer is if that had to come off for any reason. If you have gasket sealer on there, you're almost sure to tear it because it's going to grab on one side or the other or both. The way I did it, it should release cleanly from the oil pan side. maybe, you'd at least have a chance at it. Could save you a nightmare another day. So I'll just tighten those all up, torque those to spec. It's important to torque those to spec, only not because they're ultra critical fastener, but just so you don't dish out the pan. If you go too much, you could actually make a leak when you actually think you're helping yourself. Okay, so the parts bin, the spare parts bin is getting fairly empty over here, so we're making progress. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. Now comes some fasteners that will be critically important, which is the flex plate or flywheel. I think you call it a flex plate on an automatic. And these bolts that go in, you sure wouldn't want those to ever come loose. So we'll make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, let's see if we can get this fitted up. This is the engine side. And you can see the bolts were coming through from here to there, so that's proper. So they'll go into the transmission. Torque converter, whatever. Transmission side. This is a clamping plate, I guess I'd call it. Torque plate, whatever. Something to give it good clamping load. Now these are the only bolts on the car I'm actually going to use. It doesn't look like they had it, but I'm going to use some Loctite on these. Just because it'd be a nightmare situation if they were to ever back out. They shouldn't have properly torqued, but I'm going to do it on mine. That doesn't feel quite right. Yeah, might be just a rough bolt. There, that one goes in easy. A little sticky there. Guess I could have chased those threads on there. That's the only place I didn't think about chasing the threads. Three of them go right in, three of them don't. Whatever. Okay, so these are the kind of setbacks you could run into any day. The old timing cover is terribly cupped in. It's got holes cut in it here from this being too far in and rubbing on the the pulleys. It was rubbing on the outside of the pulleys here. It's got a big score line in it. It's got a hole here from the belt rubbing against it. It was pretty much shot. But so I was able to, believe it or not, find a brand new one. Unbelievable find. But it does not come with the dust gasket that is glued in there on this one. Oh, wait a minute. It's not glued in there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is good news. I had already ordered one, but it's one of those things, you go to grab the part out of there, you figure it's got it on there because it's brand new, and it didn't have it. Oh, this is good news. I thought that was all glued in there and you weren't getting it off. Now I can continue. Okay, so that gasket went in there pretty good. I was shocked that that came out. I thought it was part of the part and it was glued in, and I had already ordered another one. Luckily, not a big dollar item, but it's just a waiting game. So as you can see, this one doesn't have those big grooves cut in it. It doesn't have the window in here. You don't want dirt getting onto that, because if it does, it'll get in your belt and go around and around and around and make it go all wonky. Plus, it's got a nice, crisp, clear timing mark. The other one was kind of boogered. So let's just see. I got one bolt in there. Yeah, I guess that bolt kind of sucks it in. The rest of them are just butting up, so that's perfect. Dipstick tube. Oh yeah. And this is the pulley for the belt for the air conditioner and for the alternator and water pump. I see I got some damage on mine there. I'm gonna have to grind that, and I'm just gonna wire wheel these because they've been sitting a while and they got a little bit of rust. Okay, I gave it a quick shot with the wire wheel. I fixed up that little ding there, and then this just has a key that fits on the one that's on the engine. Try to get that to set so the bolts aren't doing the work, because the bolts they have for that aren't that beefy. Oh, before I forget, I'm going to put this one on here. I don't have all the bolts for the timing cover right now. I'm missing some, and I don't have that kind here. I like to get the ones with the proper flange on them. I have regular bolts, but no flange bolts, so I need to get some more of those, but I can still get them all in even with this on there. Awesome. And I believe this is the last part that has to go on. Can't believe we're there. I also don't have bolts for this, but just for reference I'll put one on there just to make you think I got them. And with some creative editing you'll think I did a great job. Unfortunately, I have to take that back off because I don't have the bolts for that right now, but shh, you didn't know that part. Anyway, anybody that's been following this build through the first one, I really thank you for watching. Hope you learned how to put together a G10 engine, and maybe get out there and get yours put back together. Maybe if it gives you some help. That's what we're going for here, is people can work together and get things done. Thanks for watching. Okay, I thought that was going to be the finale video, last part, but I forgot, and I just received the EGR valve, so I wasn't quite done, and I also got the oil filter, and better yet, I'll really finish it up, and I have my new hardware right here, so I can do a real finishing video. This one, that was the one that had to be a little shorter than the rest because the oil dipstick tube is behind it. That's better. These bolts are okay, but I have brand new ones and they just look so shiny I can't resist putting them on. Doesn't that look nice with the new hardware? Alright, got those all torqued. That thing was just caught a little bit on the edge. I didn't realize that. Got all the bolts in. Now, I can put on this pulley with the new bolts also. Alright, water pump ready. So just as an example of like the EGR valve, why I'm replacing that when, you know, all I needed was a new long block, supposedly. You know, in the exhaust manifold I started seeing a lot of carbon and real heavy buildup on the exhaust manifold where it goes into the EGR, comes across. The machine shop had already cleaned out the block 100%, but that exhaust port was blocked for the EGR to come back. It then goes into here and comes into this hole. It goes through a little passage there and comes out this hole, and then whether this valve, which goes here, is open or closed tells you if the engine is sucking it, how much it's going at that time by this valve opening, closing. So I got this all unclogged. It was quite a chore. I tried solvents, I tried everything. Finally, just, you know, poking things through there, I was able to get it. But you know, if you go to throw this back on, you think, oh, I'm good. You're not good. First of all, this is terribly dirty, and second of all, it is completely stuck. That should move with just finger pressure, or in the case of how it works, vacuum pressure being applied to that port will pull that diaphragm back. And like this one, I can move that with one finger. So if you can't move it, it can't move. Could you decarbon that, clean it up? Sure you could. You could put it in a parts cleaner, probably get it working again. But how long is that diaphragm going to last? And you have it right now, so easy to change. And then we know it's going to work. So I got my new gasket, I got my 2 bolts. Let me get that lined up and I'll bring you back. Alright, got my gasket, got my 2 bolts in there, just because it's going to be easier to line it up and put it on that way. We got one hose that we can put on. I guess that senses the EGR pressure. And then we got the activation hose, which sucks the diaphragm open. Okay, now I've got the engine sitting on its side because it doesn't want to stand up because it's made silly. The pan is on an angle. Anyway, I'm going to fill up the center hole, which I believe is the suction side of the filter. I could be wrong on that, but I'm going to put some in here and some in the outer ring, and I'm hoping that's going to somewhat fill up my oil passages and give me a little bit of prime. I'm also going to fill the filter, pre-fill that with oil, so we'll have less time between when I start cranking and when the oil pressure actually occurs. Alright, and just FYI for the sharp-eyed viewers, there is a hole right there for the oil pressure sensor. I don't have an extra one. I have only the one on the car. When I got this other engine, it came with a different one. It was the wrong plug for the sensor, so I will have to put that back in. But anyway, thanks for watching.